Part 205. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2041. Feng Qingxiu pointed to the courtyard where she lived, which was a large and complete courtyard. This is a thatched house? Then what are we living in? A broken thatched shed that is not even as good as a thatched house. Chen Xuanyang laughed so hard that her branches trembled, and she pulled her in directly. This courtyard house was bought by Zheng Jinrui and Chen Xuanyang as a private residence with gold. Chen Xuanyang has a lot of good things in her hands, and naturally she is not short of hard currency like gold. The family who sold the courtyard house to them was eager to go abroad after being rehabilitated, and privately sold the courtyard house that the country had returned to them. At that time, there were many people who were interested in the courtyard house. This shows that no matter what stage the country is in, there is actually no shortage of people. Money man, if the Lu family hadn't come forward, Zheng Jinrui and Chen Xuanyang might not have been able to succeed. Why do later generations say that the best courtyard houses in the capital are all in the hands of rich and powerful people? It's just that ordinary people can't afford it at all, no matter what age they are. Those who can afford it are definitely rich and powerful people. Feng Qingxiu had this realization very early on. There are more than 60 large and small rooms in this courtyard house. After renovation, it has red doors and green railings, thick ink and rich colors, carved beams and painted buildings everywhere, pavilions, small bridges and flowing water. Judging from the specifications, it is like a house with noble titles in the Qing dynasty. It is a pity that the building at the concierge and the entrance has long been changed beyond recognition and cannot be completely restored. When Zheng Jinrui and Chen Xuanyang moved into their new home, they were extremely envious of Feng Qingxiu, who had set fire to the bottom of their pot. Sai Heiwen, this is truly a sky-high price courtyard. After a few decades, it will be worth at least several hundred million. The value of Tangsong and Wang Yian's courtyards is less than 1/10 of that, and only Wen Ruyu's courtyard can compare with it. Feng Qingxiu lamented Chen Xuanyang's vision and courage more than once. Precise vision and full of courage. Before the country's reform and opening up, she secretly started a clothing business. It's not a clothing factory, it's advanced customization. What is advanced customization? It is tailor-made. It has been around since ancient times. Rich and powerful people love that unique sense of superiority. When Chen Xuanyang was at her most prosperous, she only wore tailor-made clothes. Customized Chong Sam, when national policies are relaxed, I will open a clothing factory to produce ordinary clothing in large quantities. The styles she talks about are average, and compared to the clothing of this era, they are already at the forefront of trends. Feng Qingxiu raised her thumb. If you are ambitious, I'll wait to see the grand scene of your garment factory. When the time comes, I will find Fu Bao to cooperate. The clothes designed by this girl are getting better and better, and the color matching is so amazing that even the old tailor is amazed. Chen Xuanyang thought of the few clothes design drawings she had just brought over. Feng Qingxiu exclaimed, maybe I learned some oil painting techniques from Master Su recently and became more sensitive to colors. Which Master Su? Chen Xuanyang asked. Master Su Ming and Su, a very famous oil painting master. Chen Xuanyang's eyes widened. Oh, it's him. I have an impression that he drew a portrait of me when I was young. The paintings were indeed lifelike. I always knew that he later moved to the capital, but I didn't expect that you and I would actually be together. He knows. Feng Qingxiu was surprised at first, but then she understood the reason. There is no doubt that it must have happened when Chen Xuanyang was in the spotlight. Chen Xuanyang is an open-minded person and has never been shy about her past. Zheng Jinrui knew her history when he pursued her. Now that they are quite old and have been together for many years, they will not care about it. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2042. Feng Qingxiu explained her intention to Chen Swiniang and handed over a bag of cloth. Chen Swiniang accepted it without saying a word. There are some skirts in the clothing design drawings Fu Bao gave me that are particularly beautiful. The color combinations are so unique that most people can't afford them. I'll ask the master to make them for you. The daughter I raised with great difficulty has become your exclusive fashion designer. Feng Qingxiu was a little jealous. Chen Swiniang laughed. What a pity it is that Fu Bao's talent has been buried. She has loved beauty since she was a child. Isn't it a great act to spread beauty to the world so that more people can show it? Don't worry, I will definitely not, thanks to Fu Bao, whether she customizes clothes for others or opens a clothing factory in the future, her dividends will be the same as mine. The foundation of the clothing business is design. Without original designs, you cannot make fashionable clothes that are superior to ordinary clothes. Teacher Wen is very strict now. Don't make her lose track of her duties. To be honest, Feng Qingxiu is also proud of this daughter who has become so versatile without even realizing it. Although she did not teach her, the pride comes from the bottom of her heart. Chen Swiniang hurriedly said, don't worry, I will never miss Fu Bao's studies. Fu Bao and Zi Bao have somewhat similar personalities. They have extreme self-control and know what goals they are pursuing. Her grades have always been among the best since she was a child. No matter how many talents she learns, such as piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting, her grades are still the same. She moves, which makes many people marvel. Otherwise, how could they say that she is extremely talented? If Chen Swiniang hadn't said that Feng Qingxiu was extremely poor, Fu Bao and her might not have cooperated as they did now. Fu Bao likes to draw, and clothing design is just a hobby. She has no talent for business, and she never thought about making money by selling clothes, until Chen Swiniang's proposal opened the door to her life. The family needs money, money is needed to provide for the elderly, money is needed to raise children like them, money is needed to collect antiques, calligraphy and paintings, and they also spend money learning arts such as piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting. There are also many veterans who live a hard life, and providing for the elderly is a problem. The problem is that just relying on the salary from his parents is definitely not enough, especially since his brother started a student aid plan, so Fu Bao cooperated with Chen Swiniang. Their parents' jobs dictate that they should not be involved in this kind of thing, so as a daughter, you don't have to worry about it. Feng Qingxiu didn't know this. Fu Bao didn't mention it, and Chen Swiniang didn't dare to say it, for fear that Feng Qingxiu would seduce Fu Bao and not do her job properly. Fu Bao really didn't feel that she was not doing her job properly. After working with Chen Swiniang for only half a year, she received a total of 8,000 yuan in dividends, which was equivalent to her mother's salary plus allowances for several years. Mom, take it and return it to Grandpa Xia first. Fu Bao still remembered that Feng Qingxiu asked Xia Shuhui to borrow 10,000 yuan in Shanghai. Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but rub her eyes. There was a thick layer of unity. Did she read it correctly? Give it to me. Seeing her daughter nodding, Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly, no, you will save the money you earn for your dowry later. You don't have to worry about Grandpa Xia's debts as a child. The family cannot make enough money to keep up with the money they spend, and she has already planned to sell the gold. The state controls the purchase of gold and silver, and many people seek opportunities to go abroad. Gold on the black market is hot and demand exceeds supply. Fu Bao said seriously, our family has been spending a lot of money. How can we save money and give it back to Grandpa Xia? Mom, just use it. Aunt Shui and I work very well together and will continue to make money in the future. Wait a moment. Once the dividends were distributed, I helped my brother. He recently wanted to set up a transportation team as a way to make money. He is very short of money. We can still cooperate in the future. After the clothing factory is established, use Zi Bao's transportation team to sell their clothing all over the country. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2043. After explaining, Fubao waved his sleeves, preparing not to take away a piece of cloud at home. It was finally summer vacation, and the teacher had not given any homework, so she had to go back to the Wen family courtyard to learn more. Not to be missed. The fresh fruits that her mother sent to the Wen family compound every now and then attracted Wen Ruyu's old friends to come and eat them every day. Hearing what she said, Feng Qingxiu hurriedly asked the guard who sent her off to take the 2 baskets of fruits that she had just brought back from outside. Your grandparents are old and have weak stomachs. Don't let them eat too much, Feng Qingxiu never forgot to tell her. Fu Bao responded, turned around and said, I know, Mom, please put the money away quickly, I'm leaving. Feng Qingxiu counted the money and put it into the space avoiding people. When Lu Zhang came back in the evening, she showed it to Lu Zhang and said with emotion, Comrade Lu Zhang, I suddenly realized that neither of us is as good at making money as a child, but we are so poor that we need Fu Bao to earn money for us to spend. What a shame, she is still from the 21st century. Lu Jiang's eyes widened instantly, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes were no longer obvious. Did our daughter send it to me? He knew that Chen Xuanyang had secretly started a tailor-made clothing business, and he also knew that his daughter had a share in it, but he didn't expect to make so much money. What is this? When they really set up a clothing factory, they will make a lot of money every day. After all, there are only a few people in China who wear haute couture. Food, clothing, housing, and transportation are the 4 major items of life. Clothing ranks first, which shows its importance. Feng Qingxiu was very confident in the designs of Chen Xuanyang and Fubao. Even the most ordinary dress she bought was more beautiful than what was sold on the market, otherwise it would not have caused a trend in the courtyard every time. This is also because less than 2 years have passed since the thrilling days, and many people still can't believe that things have been peaceful since then. Therefore, most people's clothes are no different from before. They are still mainly black, gray, blue, and green, and the styles remain unchanged. If there were not some women gay people wearing skirts appear in the streets and alleys. I really can't see how the times have changed. Lu Zhang clicked his tongue and marveled, I've heard you say how fast the times are changing, and I've read your information, but I still can't believe that my daughter is so capable. I thought Zibao was the first one to make money. The business Zibao has created is too big, and it will be difficult to recoup the cost for a while. However, he is quite smart. Now he uses the transport vehicles that have been eliminated by the army and the veterans who have come out of the army to form a transport team. Although he only plans to run short-term in the early stage, activities near the capital, but looking at the development signs, we may become the leading transportation giant in our country. An idea flashed in Feng Qingxiu's mind. Zibao was taught by Father Lu, and he is very forward-looking about future changes. Maybe he really planned it this way, and with the transportation team, there are so many things that can be done next. Lu Zhang raised his eyebrows. It's hard to say what the future will be like now. I have to remind Zibao not to commit the crime of speculation. How can our children not understand this rule? Nowadays, people doing small businesses can be seen everywhere, and there are also private factories. Why doesn't Sister Xuanyang open a clothing factory now? It's not that she doesn't dare, but she is cautious. After all, she the one who cooperates is Fubao, not to mention Zibao, he is so good. The transportation team is still in the name of semi-official. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2044. This transportation team is for money, but it is not all about money. If Zibao does everything for money, then he is not their child. After all, he can make a fortune by transporting a batch of supplies from other places to Beijing and selling them. Specialties from the south double in price when they arrive in the north, and the same goes for specialties from the north when they arrive in the south. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, what was the most famous thing? Damn it! Many businessmen from Guangzhou sold various electronic products, clothing, and other goods, and soon became households worth tens of thousands of dollars. Correspondingly, there are also certain risks. Although Feng Qingxiu didn't pay much attention to the economic situation in the 1980s and 1990s, she had also heard about the turmoil caused by speculation in the early 1980s. Fortunately, the superiors responded quickly and corrected it immediately, allowing the individual economy to achieve unprecedented development. Therefore, even if she allowed her children to develop freely, Feng Qingxiu paid great attention to the details. After listening to Feng Qingxiu's words, Lu Zhang said smoothly, although there are no specific documents yet, the country has already expressed its intention to support private businesses to open shops and factories to develop the individual economy. I guess the specific policies will not be implemented until the end of the year. Zibao's previous student aid program was praised by the above, so the transportation team was established smoothly, which will help veterans get re-employed. Feng Qingxiu nodded. Of course she knew the significance of her son's work. When Lu Zhang said that he had been named and praised by the superiors, she couldn't help but feel honored. Not talking about him, the economic reform you mentioned is consistent with history. No variety. Domestic reform and opening up policies were implemented at the end of the year. Since then, the domestic economy has developed rapidly. It's not that there are no changes at all. Last year, you asked me to propose to several old leaders about cultural relics management ahead of schedule. Today I heard from the old leader that the documents he instructed have been sent to various cultural relics units, ending the wholesale of cultural relics. Export, and cultural relics workers will demarcate the antiques, calligraphy and paintings before the 60th year of Qianlong's reign as cultural relics and are not allowed to be exported overseas. Feng Qingxiu was filled with surprise. What good news! It's several years ahead of schedule compared to the previous life. It's just a few years ahead of schedule, but it's able to save countless cultural relics from being lost overseas. As for what you said about later handing over all the cultural relics in the cultural relics store to the cultural relics department based on market valuation, at present, it is not realistic. Not only Lu Zhang felt regretful, but Feng Qingxiu felt the same. She sighed deeply. That will take many years. In my last life, it was in the late 1980s. To be honest, there are many valuable things from the 60th year of Qianlong's reign, especially the works of modern masters. Lu Jianguaner said, I have heard that in modern times, some of the works of famous people are prohibited from being exported overseas. Feng Qingxiu stroked her hands. That would be great. It's a priceless treasure. A little bit that can be saved is better than a little bit that can't be saved. Stop lamenting. You have done a good enough job in this regard. Go to bed early. Lu Zhang pulled the quilt for her to cover her bare white shoulders. The weather was hot and the air conditioner was on in the room. She was used to it. You have to cover yourself with a silk quilt at night. The silk quilt is from her space, the bedding she used in her previous life. Feng Qingxiu yawned and her eyes became hazy. When will Uncle Xia come to the capital for a meeting? Remember to remind me to return the money to him. I don't dare to remit such a large amount of money directly. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2045. Any larger amount of money deposited in the bank will be noticed and investigated by relevant personnel, let alone a full 10,000 yuan. Fubao got back cash instead of a passbook, which shows that it is not easy to make a large deposit. I remember, go to bed quickly. Lu Zhang stepped forward. Feng Qingxiu pushed him, don't be so close, it's too hot. You're still covered with quilts, Why are you so hot? At this moment, Lu Zhang was extremely grateful for the air conditioners equipped by the country. It was really a great tool for keeping cool in the summer, and he didn't have to worry about any sweaty activities. Early the next morning, Feng Qingxiu got up late. Fortunately, she didn't have to go to work, otherwise Lu Zhang, who had already gone to work, would not be able to escape her big eyes. It's July now, it's a hot summer day, and everyone is lazy. Not 2 days later, the college entrance examination came as scheduled. Last year, each province set the questions and set the exam date, but this year it is a unified national college entrance examination, and the date is July 20th. Since there are no restrictions on candidates, many more people have signed up to take the college entrance examination than last year. In the past few days during the college entrance examination, the children in the compound did not dare to make loud noises. The reason is very simple. Many children of cotters also took part in the college entrance examination. They all failed the exam last year or are graduating this year. There are quite a lot of them. No children in the Lu family took the college entrance examination. Feng Qingxiu originally wanted to ignore the matter, but when she heard the detailed regulations for this year's exam after the college entrance examination, she immediately felt sad. If I had known earlier that there would be no age limit for candidates. Since I was born, I have waited until now to take the college entrance examination, really. After all, the workers, peasants and soldiers university is not as good as the universities that are actually admitted, and the gold content is different. Lu Zhang looked at her sideways, with a hint of amusement in his eyes. Can you put down what you are doing and study? What do you want your patients to do? Many people take the college entrance examination in order to have a good job in the future. You already have a good job, you have a job and a good future, so don't put the cart before the horse. Besides, you said you would apply for further studies when the school opens its graduate courses. The meaning is different. Those who have entered the school in the past 2 years are all the proud ones, and the connections they have made are all the connections in the future. Tisk. Think about it, how many influential figures in the future will come from these 2 sessions? Lu Zhang waved his hand. Actually, you are too obsessed with academic qualifications. Even if you have no academic qualifications, who would dare to disrespect you when you go out now? Where are your achievements on display? That's true. She thought that when Feng Qingxiu walked out, in addition to being called Dr. Feng, she would also be called a leader. Although, her leadership is far better than Shang Lujiang's leadership. After eating, I'm going to work. Are you taking a rest today? Lu Zhang wiped his mouth and looked left and right. He didn't see his wife showing any intention of moving. Something was wrong. Logically speaking, she shouldn't take a rest. Feng Qingxiu's movements of wiping her mouth were much more elegant. Dr. Wang has something urgent to do tomorrow, so he will switch shifts with me. Lu Zhang said, then I'm leaving. Feng Qingxiu did not stand up, but waved to him, walk slowly. Have no conscience. Seeing that there was no third person in the restaurant, Lu Zhang turned around and pinched her nose before leaving quickly. Feng Qingxiu touched her nose and snorted, not bothering with him. The weather was hot and she didn't want to go out, so she changed into cotton and linen clothes and went to the bedroom to blow on the air conditioner and practice calligraphy and painting. When she heard the cicadas chirping outside the window, she had a sudden idea, and a black golden cicada jumped out of the paper. She showed it to Wen Ruyu in the afternoon. Wen Ruyu ignored the fruit she brought and praised, there is progress. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2046. Cheng Baoqiu came over with half a watermelon cut by Fu Bao. He took a spoon to dig out the red flesh and ate it. He glanced at the screen twice, but didn't see any clues. Isn't she just a big sister? I looked at it. Fu Bao's paintings are not as good looking. De Jier is the dialect of their Huihe city, which refers to the golden cicada, and the one that has not shed its shell is called the knotted turtle. When Ruyu has lived in Wanglu Brigade for so many years and has eaten fried turtles several times, so she naturally understands what he means. Fuebao, who was dragged into the battle by Cheng Baokyo to compare with his mother, was speechless and found him a magnifying glass. Why are you giving me a magnifying glass? Cheng Baokyo looked strange. Look carefully at the golden cicada my mother painted. Cheng Baokyo put down the watermelon and took a photo of the golden cicada with a magnifying glass. He couldn't help but widen his old eyes and blurted out, "My dear, is this a real big sister? The patterns on the wings are exactly the same as the real ones." Wang Lan also came over to take a look and exclaimed, "Zioxiu is the true successor to Lao Wen." Wen Ruyu was happy in her heart and spoke modestly, saying, "The skill is still far from perfect. In terms of fine brushwork, when you can draw a fly and a mosquito lifelike, you will be considered a master." Wang Lan looked sideways at him, a little dissatisfied with Wen Ruyu's misspoken words. She was good at fine brushwork, so she naturally knew how good Feng Qingxiu was. "Old Wen, your demands are too high, aren't you? You can paint Jin Chan like this, Zioxiu I can definitely draw flies and mosquitoes. I think Zioxiu is very good at drawing, but Amo and King Ian are not that good at this age." When Ryu snorted, "King Ian's talent is weaker, and Amona was delayed by her work at the Academy of Fine Arts. She hasn't made any progress in decades, so she just calmed down during the few years she was sent down, and she made a lot of progress than before. It's okay for Xiaoneng. I haven't given up on it these years. I don't know if Nan Sheng is slacking off when he stays in Hong Kong. As a human being, you have to eat, drink, and drink, so you can't blame Mo for being busy at work. Don't you have to run for a living?" Mentioning this matter, Wang Lan looked around at everyone, and then said, "We old guys can't just sit back and rest, nor can we just rely on the support of relatives and friends and the subsidies of our children. We have to find something to do. These few of them don't have jobs like Zhu Ling, Wen Yu, and Huang Qinghong. In short, they don't have any income. Wen Ruyu was hired by Capital University before, but not now. She might as well be hired by Professor Xia and Qin Huai." After her reminder, not only Wen Ruyu's eyes widened, but Jin Ruoku also stopped eating watermelon and suddenly realized, "I have always felt that I have overlooked something in my life recently, and now I realize that the life of us old guys is really a mess. The problem is, I might as well earn a few work points in the Wanglu Brigade. The compensation from the state is really not enough for me to buy the 4 treasures of the study, let alone live." Jin Ruoku's family situation was not as good as Wen Ruyu's, and most of his belongings were not saved. The state gave him a compensation, but it was not a large amount and was based on market value. Wang Lan spread her hands and said, "We have to brainstorm ideas." Wen Ruyu's 2 white eyebrows frowned tightly together. "How about we sell paintings? Just like before, I can sell a painting for hundreds of dollars. Now I have to pay hundreds of dollars no matter what. The bank buys the paintings. The price is $1. Wang Lan bluntly struck, "Don't be wishful thinking. Do you think it's like the 1930s and 1940s, and some people like calligraphy and painting? Calligraphy and painting are abandoned as if they were useless, okay?" Wen Ruyu, who has been a wise and martial artist all his life, was finally stumped. "The baby came unexpectedly. Because my body has not fully recovered, I plan to raise it before having it. But after 40 days, the fetal heart rate and fetal buds were detected, so I had to take good care of it. My mother was afraid that it would be difficult for me to get pregnant at my old age, which is embarrassing. Rest now, good night everyone." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2047. Hearing their conversation, Feng Qingxiu pursed her lips and kept smiling, but did not speak. They really underestimate themselves. Okay. You can't sell paintings now, and few people want them for free. That's because of the times. Many people haven't come out from the shadow of the past, but when they go to teach in schools, the principal will laugh out of his dreams. The country attaches great importance to knowledge, and the first embarrassing problem encountered after the opening of classes in major colleges and universities across the country is that there are relatively few teachers. In the past, many intellectuals, including many principals and teachers, were lost, so even if they are 70 or 80 years old, as long as if they reveal their intentions and are healthy, the school will be happy to hire them to return to school to teach students. How old are Lawyer Qin Huai, Professor Xie, Professor Zhang, and Professor Ma? Although she was much younger than the old men and women in front of her, she was still treated with courtesy on the university campus. Seeing the old man and the old lady discussing life problems with gloomy faces, Fu Bao couldn't help but said, "Grandpa Wen, what are you worried about? I may make money now, and I will provide for you in the future. At your age, you are older than me. Grandpa is still old, he should take care of himself as long as he can, instead of worrying about food, rice, oil, and salt." When it came to her ability to make money, Wang Quilin, who had been silent for a long time, finally cheered up and asked, "Fu Bao, is your and Xuanyang's business really so profitable? Is there anyone willing to ask you to make clothes for hundreds of thousands of dollars?" She pulled the cloth herself to make a summer dress for a few dollars. Therefore, she always couldn't believe that someone spent so much money to make clothes, and the materials had to be produced by themselves. Fu Bao covered his mouth and smiled and said, "Third grandma, that's because you don't understand some people's sense of superiority. I only know through experience that there is no shortage of rich people in these 49 cities, and the situation is now more relaxed than before. Naturally came up, and my life was very comfortable. The cheapest skirts and shirts at Aunt Chue's place cost 20 yuan apiece, and the more expensive ones were winter clothes, which cost at least 100 yuan, so I found them secretly. There are too many to count, and I prefer the unique style." Wang Quilin smacked her lips. "Just make one style? How much brain power do you have to spend designing clothes? Your auntie and your grandma Su taught you cutting, sewing, embroidery and other things. They are making clothes for yourself and your family, not for others. You design for others." Fu Bao hurriedly said, "Buy a design for 20 yuan? How can you get such a cheap thing? I know my own design well. The business is mainly under the banner of tailor-made, the quantity is limited, not overwhelming on the street. Cheap clothes can be made in larger quantities, and the more expensive the clothes, the smaller the quantity. If you want unique ones, you have to pay more. Aunt Xuanyang offers 200 or 300 yuan, and there are people who are willing to make those unique ones. Otherwise, why can I earn 8,000 yuan in half a year?" People like Wen Ruyu, Jin Ruoku, and Wang Lan were all experienced in foreign affairs and had seen the world, so they were not surprised. Cheng Baoqiu was dumbfounded. "My dear, how expensive is it to make a piece of clothing? How many workers only earn 30 or 40 yuan a month? Otherwise, how can we call it advanced customization?" Feng Qingxiu said. "Third uncle, just wait." According to Sister Xuanyang's drive to develop the clothing business and Fu Bao's talent in designing clothing, in 20 or 30 years, someone will get thousands of dollars. Even if you spend tens of thousands of dollars, you may not be able to buy such a unique haute couture garment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2048. After hearing this, Cheng Baoqiu shook his head and hands, as if he didn't believe it. The 8,000 yuan that Fu Bao received in half a year was shocking enough. How about when 10,000 people can't even afford a piece of clothing for 8,000 yuan? Don't believe it, Foreign countries have already had high-end customization, and there are hundreds of thousands of pieces. It's good to have a sister in the family who often goes abroad. There is more information about foreign countries. Foreign countries don't talk about jewelry and clothes, just belts. Wallets and other gadgets have limited editions, global limited editions, and they are extremely expensive, you know what I mean? I don't understand. Cheng Baokyo shook his head. Everyone didn't care whether he believed or not, understood or didn't understand, and turned the topic back to the issue of survival. Father Lu laughed and sighed a few times. What are you worried about? I want to laugh when I see your frowning faces. You are all talented and famous people. Everyone talks about Taishan Baidu. Is it so difficult to find a job if the news is spread? The country is currently, needless to say, you know what is lacking most is talent, so the door to the college entrance examination is open, but college students need to be taught, right? Jinruoku slapped his thigh. What a word wakes up the dreamer. His attainments in calligraphy and painting may not be as good as Wenryu's, but he is an all-rounder, proficient in Russian, French, and Japanese. Later, when Zuling Wenyu and others were teaching children, he learned some English, a little bit of Chinese medicine, and a little bit of architectural design. And is proficient in calligraphy and painting. He is also a very famous mathematician and physicist. Many scientific researchers in the country were his former students. However, scientific research work needs to be kept confidential, so now he has not seen those students engaged in scientific research. If he said he wanted to find a job, someone would definitely drive to pick him up the next day, and he might even have to ask him to teach in several departments. Wenryu then reacted and said, "That makes sense. I am an old Wen who has an old heart. I can go to campus to indulge my addiction as a teacher. Anyway, those students on campus are very easy to teach, so he taught some basic art." Wang Lan praised, "What a great idea. It was such a happy decision." After they made their decision, Cheng Baokyo said very matter-of-factly, "You can't let the news out on your own, right? That would be too disrespectful. Let Zioxia go. She graduated from Capital University. She is very familiar with the old guys in the university. Zibao is now the favorite of the law department and has great reputation." Wenryu agreed, and the disciples had to obey him. Well, Feng Qingxue was smiling when, with a bang, the task fell on her head. Okay, I'll go. She didn't say no. It's not a problem for old men and old ladies to write and draw at home every day. Even if you are older, you should have a pursuit, so as to maintain your energy and thinking active. The old man is brave and ambitious, and his ambition is thousands of miles. As expected, Professor Xie was overjoyed when he heard what Feng Qingxue revealed. The principal was recently worried about too few teachers. "I will go to the principal right away and drive myself to hire some senior teachers." Gentlemen. Jinruoku can not only teach foreign languages, but also mathematics and physics, and can also serve as a substitute teacher in the architecture department. Although Wenryu is the most famous for his calligraphy and painting, in addition to going to the Academy of Fine Arts, he can also teach in the Chinese department. This old friend's achievements in Chinese studies are unmatched by ordinary people. Although Wang Lan is a lesbian, she is also a world-famous female painter. Each one is a national treasure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2049. Professor Xie's movement speed was even faster than that of the old principal. Of course, the main problem is the lack of talent. After years of catastrophe, countless talents have been lost, and some of those who have been rehabilitated are injured, disabled, or disheartened. Therefore, no matter how old a cultural person is, they will be reused as long as they are willing. Not long after, Feng Qingxiu heard from her father-in-law that several old men and women had been hired by Capital University in suitable positions, and the salaries were good. Huaxia University, where Guancheng is located, found out about the incident afterwards and was very disappointed. Considering that they are older and it is more troublesome to travel between campus and residence every day, Capital University also specially arranged faculty dormitories for them. In this way, food and accommodation are all at school. However, because it is still during the summer vacation and this year's college entrance examination has not long ended, the official entry and accommodation procedures must be completed after the semester starts. When you all go to work, I and the third old man will be left with nothing to do. I'm a little envious of you. Hearing Father Lu's regretful tone, Wen Ruyu smiled and said, "You can do it if you want. I believe they will pay close attention to thatched cottage if they know your skills. Your talent is not inferior to ours, but you are not as famous as us, that's all, but fame is nothing compared to true talent and learning. When it comes to strategizing, no one can match Father Lu. Several old men and old ladies have known him for many years, and it couldn't be clearer." Chen Baoqiu from the side agreed very much. The second brother is naturally very powerful, but it's a pity that he has never been willing to show off his talents. But Father Lu waved his hand, "Now I'm teasing my grandson and enjoying family happiness, so don't make trouble for me." With a strong body, a rosy complexion, and a strong voice when speaking, with a cheerful and contented look on his face and eyes, Father Lu is the most enviable now. A family full of children and grandchildren, all of whom are outstanding, is not everyone's blessing. Speaking of grandsons, why didn't you bring the little ones today? It's holiday now, so we don't have to go to school. Wen Ruyu missed Fu Bao a little. Fu Bao usually came over to ask for help when he was free, but he didn't see anyone for several days, which was strange. There are also Lu Chen and Guansu, Lu's father's two great-grandchildren. Lu's father usually takes care of them, but they haven't seen them in the past 2 days. Father Lu said nonchalantly, "They said it was a holiday. Aiken and Wengzio took their sons home to take care of them for a while. Xiaoyu also came from the southeast military region to visit relatives and lived at his father's place, so I didn't bring the 2 children here." What about Fu Bao? Wen Ruyu was still thinking about this talented and diligent disciple. Father Lu's face looked a little helpless. "I have a cold, rest at home." "Why did you catch a cold on such a hot day?" Jin Ruoku and Wang Lan blurted out at the same time. "It's air conditioner." The state provided Lujiang with only one air conditioner, not every room. The state did not have that much financial resources. However, after Feng Qingyun came back, she had money and tickets, and was used to enjoying things. She spent a lot of money to buy several air conditioners for them to install in their bedrooms. This summer, everyone had a more comfortable life. There are good things and bad things. The air conditioner blows too much and the quilt is not covered at night. It is inevitable that I will feel top-heavy. Afraid of infecting the old man and the old lady, Fu Bao stayed at home, because both Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu had to work, and the grandchildren were attending training. Even if Wang Quilin was at home, Father Lu was not at ease, and he and Chen Baoqiu said goodbye to Wen Ruyu soon. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 2050. Before returning home, Father Lu suddenly changed course and went to the friendship store. Chen Baoqiu found it strange and asked him what he was buying. Father Lu smiled and said, "Chiener saw some good things in the store, but unfortunately I didn't bring enough money or coupons at the time. Before going out this time, I asked Xiaoxiu to ask for some and take them with me. Let's go home after shopping." There was Feng Qingyun, who often went abroad, and the Lu family had so many overseas remittance coupons that they could never use them up. Anyone in the compound who needed them would come to them and ask for a few. Cheng Baokyo was inseparable from his second brother and didn't pay attention to what he had taken a fancy to last time. This time he followed him into the store and saw him, an old man, running directly to the counter selling jewelry and handicrafts. Father Lu quickly took out the money and tickets, without any hesitation, and bought a set of full green jade jewelry that had not yet been bought after he took a fancy to it, including a bead necklace, a ring, a pair of bracelets, and earrings. The texture is transparent, moist, and shiny, and it is consistent with the characteristics of Shenyang and even concentration. Even a big man like Cheng Baokyo finds it good looking. The rings and earrings are made of gold, which is also brilliant. "Did you buy it for Xiaoxiu?" he asked. As we all know, among jewelry, Feng Qingxiu's favorite has always been jade, or green jade. Father Lu shook his head. "Xiaoxiu had Ajiang buy it for her, and I bought it for Fu Bao." Fu Bao. Unknowingly, Fu Bao is about to have haircuts and become a big girl. When she is old, she has to save her dowry since childhood, but it is not too late. "I will go to the flea market tomorrow to look for some furniture made of good materials. If you have good wood that has not been processed, find someone to make new ones." Cheng Baokyo suddenly realized, yes, the little girl was born in 1964, not the 14th five-year plan. Time flies so fast. He saw Father Lu putting away the box of jade jewelry and looked back at the gold jewelry on the counter. Although gold and silver were not allowed to circulate in the market at this time, the country had a state-owned gold processing factory, which was an old silver building before the founding of the People's Republic of China, and finished products were always exported for foreign exchange. "Second brother, gold is hard currency, and the jewelry it makes looks good. How about we buy some for Fu Bao too? People who came out of the war years have a higher degree of trust in gold." Father Lu smiled, pulled him out of the store, and whispered, "I have studied the economic situation of our country. As long as the economy develops, there will inevitably be inflation. It is a good idea to link gold to the US dollar and use it as a reserve. But the value of collection is not as great as that of jade. Don't underestimate jade. In those days, a piece of jade could cost tens of thousands of dollars. Of course, antiques have more room for appreciation, and they are prosperous antiques." Cheng Baokyo was enlightened. "According to what you say, instead of waiting for inflation to make Quillan and I's money worthless in the bank, we might as well buy some jade and antiques for investment." Father Lu nodded and said it was feasible. It would be good to buy some real estate. The capital is the political center of the country, and the land in the future will definitely be valuable. Speaking of this, the old man suddenly said, "Ajiang and Xiaoxiu's wages are limited, and Zibao's business cannot be linked to the student aid plan. We can't just sit around and find ways to make money. Everything I want to buy costs a lot of money. There are good things waiting for him to pick up at the flea market, but most of the better ones are in cultural relic stores. The prices of things for export are very high. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu's salary alone is really not enough. It depends on the situation. Economic reform is around the corner and it's time to do something about it. I often saw redness, and later suffered severe bleeding and large blood clots. Big hospitals refused to admit me and said they had no beds. Small hospitals said they couldn't keep me. I went to a private hospital to have my pregnancy preserved until now. I can only lie down and use my mobile phone. The placenta is so low that I can't sit up. I try my best. Try to update TT.